Gentlelady yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Johnson, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, I'm an information technology professional, been doing it for the most of my life. You've been evasive in many of your answers. I'm going to talk to you in some language that maybe you'll better understand, ones and zeros, okay? Let's talk about the Citizen Lab report. This is something your team frequently mentions in hearings as a way to exonerate yourself. For example, in the limitations section, it reads, we could not examine every source code component and test in the apps in every circumstance, which means our methods could not find every security issue, privacy violation, and censorship event. So it's an incomplete assessment. The report notes that TikTok's data collection using third-party trackers was in apparent conflict with the GDPR and that multiple themes were censored by TikTok. What is shocking to me is the shared source code between TikTok in the United States and the CCP-censored Douyin. The Citizen Labs report says that many of the functions and classes were identical and that the differences in behavior between TikTok in the United States and Douyin in China are slight changes in hard-coded values. Incredibly, specific censorship parameters from Douyin are present in TikTok, but just turned off. The authors say that for unknown reasons, the parameter variable itself is preserved. So while Citizen Lab may have been afraid to say the obvious conclusion, Mr. Chu, I am not. TikTok's source code is riddled with backdoors and CCP censorship devices. Here's the truth. In 1 million lines of code, the smallest shift from a 0 to a 1 on just one of thousands of versions of TikTok on the market will unlock explicit CCP censorship and access to American data. Mr. Chu, as CEO of TikTok, why have you not directed your engineers to change this source code?
Congressman, thank you for the question.
Have you directed them to change the source code?
Like what we are offering and my fourth commitment?
Have you directed them to change that source code?
Congressman, if you give me a bit of time to just
No, I don't. It's a yes or no question. Have you directed your engineers to change that source code?
I'm not sure I understand.
Why are you allowing TikTok to continue to have the capacity for censorship, and yet you claim here that you don't? Let me remind you of something. Do you realize that making false and misleading statements to Congress is a federal crime?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So have you directed your engineers to change that source code?
I am giving third-party access monitoring by experts. And Congressman, you are an expert on this. You could agree with me that no other company does
this. Source code is the same as Douyin? What percentage?
I can get back to you on the specifics.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. Where was the source code for TikTok developed? Was it developed in China or in the United States?
It's a global collaborative effort, like a lot of code for a lot of companies.
Was it developed in China? Some of it?
Some of it is.
Okay, at ByteDance. When it's compiled in the compilation process, can bytecode be manipulated? We've talked a lot about source code. What about the bytecode, the ones and zeros that actually execute on the device? Can it be manipulated?
Yes. Congressman, to give you comfort, that's why we're giving third-party monitors. Yes. As an expert, I think you can agree that very few companies
I've got the report here by Citizen Lab. I want to read you something from Ron Diebert. Specifically, in your written testimony to Congress, you stated on page 9, Citizen Lab found that there was no overt data transmission by TikTok to the Chinese government and that TikTok did not contact any servers within China. You implied that Citizen Lab exonerated TikTok from any information sharing with China. Well, the director of Citizen Lab saw this and issued a statement correcting the record yesterday. And I'm quoting Ron Diebert, the director of the lab. I am disappointed that TikTok executives continue citing the Citizen Lab's research in their statements to government as somehow exculpatory. I've called them out on this in the past, and it's unfortunate that I have to do it again, unquote. He goes on to say, and I quote, we even speculated about possible mechanisms through which the Chinese government might use unconventional techniques to obtain TikTok user data via pressure on ByteDance, end of quote. Mr. Chu, you sent Congress written testimony citing this lab as a support of your claim that China cannot access user data, U.S. user data. And now this lab has come out to say, we never said that. That's misleading, Mr. Chu. I hope you understand what that is. That's misleading. Mr. Chu, this is yet another instance of TikTok attempting to mislead Americans about what their technology is capable of and who has access to their information. Madam Chair, I'd like to
respond to that
by
very
Ron
quickly,
Ebert and the Citizens Lab into the record.
Without objections.
With
so
that, I
ordered.
yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair yields to the gentleman from Maryland. Mr. Sarbanes, 5 minutes.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, I'm going to pick up on a theme we've already covered here, which is the effect that your platform, along with many other social media platforms, by the way, has in terms of mental and behavioral health in this country. I won't speak to what's happening elsewhere in the world, but we've talked about the impact that it's having on children, on teens. We took some action last year in this committee to try to improve access to resources, reauthorize critical programs to address mental health needs, but we need to do even more than that. And we got to address what the big tech companies like TikTok are doing, because those are platforms that expose children, teens to additional risks. The more time that middle and high schoolers spend on social media, the evidence is the more likely they are to experience depression and anxiety. And this is particularly troubling since apparently 16% of American teenagers report that they use TikTok, quote, almost constantly. That's, I think, about 5 million teenagers in this country that are on TikTok all the time. And we know that big tech, including TikTok, uses design features that can manipulate users, including children and teens, to keep them engaged, designed to feed them a never-ending stream of content, keep their attention for hours on end, which includes capitalizing on the desire for others' approval through like features, preying on the fear of missing out through push notifications and so forth. Again, you're part of an industry that's set up to do this. You, in some sense, don't appear to be able to help yourselves in reaching out and finding that new user and then holding on to them. TikTok itself has acknowledged that these features and others, like the endless scroll feature, can have an outsized effect on teens. And we've been discussing today how your app only intensifies that harm by amplifying dangerous content and misinformation. I don't want to be too paternalistic here because we have young people in the audience. We've got TikTok users that are watching this hearing, and I'm sure they have their own ideas about how this technology is being managed by TikTok and other social media platforms. They like to access the platforms, and they should be able to do that safely, so it's certainly in their interest, and they can drive this conversation, I think, perfectly well, but it's not a fair fight, is it? I mean, the algorithms are on one side of the screen. The human brain is on the other side of the screen, drowning in these algorithms, in many instances at an age where the brain's not even fully developed yet. So those addictive impulses are being sort of perfected by the technology, and again, it leaves the users sort of helpless in the face of that. Are you looking at ways to redesign core features like the ones I mentioned to be less manipulative, and addictive for users? And can you commit to making some of those modifications here today?
Congressman, thank you. We do want to be leading in terms of safety of our users, particularly for teenagers. We were the first to launch a 60-minute watch limit.
Yeah, let's talk about the 60-minute launch.
And I'm very glad to see people, others in our industry follow. For many of your recommendations, we'll study them very seriously. Yeah. We actually have a series of features. Like, for example, if you're under 16, you cannot use a direct messaging feature because we want to protect those younger users. If you're under 16, you cannot go viral by default. If you're under 18, you cannot go live. And
let me go back to the 60-minute limit. Because my understanding is that teens can pretty easily bypass the notification to continue using the app if they want to. I mean, let's face it, our teens are smarter than we are by half. and they know how to use the technology, and they can get around these limits if they want to. Are you measuring how many teens continue to exceed the 60 minutes of time on that app?
We
Any sense
understand.
how that's working?
We understand those concerns. Our intention is to have the teens and their parents have these conversations about what is the appropriate amount of time for social media. That's why we give the parents what we call family
Let me
pairing.
ask you this question before I run out of time. If you concluded that putting some reasonable limits in place and trying to find a way to enforce them would lead some percentage of your users to leave TikTok and go somewhere else, is that something that you're prepared to accept?
Yes.
Really? Well, I'd love to get the research on how these limits are being implemented, how they're being bypassed, and the things that you're taking, the measures you're taking to address those issues going forward. Please bring that information back to our committee as we move forward.
I'll be happy to.
I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Guthrie, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for yielding. I appreciate the time. Mr. Chu, your terms of service specifically state that TikTok does, and I quote, not allow the depiction, promotion, or trade of drugs or other controlled substances. Despite this content being against your terms of service, and I brought this up with other service providers, but despite this content being against your terms of service, content on your platform related to illicit drugs like fentanyl, drug trafficking, and other illicit activity is pervasive and racks up hundreds of thousands of views. For example, in 2020, the Benadryl challenge resulted in the death of an American teenager. And we heard of another challenge earlier today that brought the death of a teenager. While you were at ByteDance, if you were the CFO for ByteDance, did Doohan allow related illicit drug trafficking or challenges resulting in death or injury to kids?
Congressman, I represent TikTok here today. I can tell you that TikTok does not allow illegal drugs content on our platform.
Does Doohan do it in China?
I believe they don't allow this, but I will need to check. I don't run their business.
Because my
I can tell you
question
TikTok
is-
does not allow this.
This is what we're concerned about, and my guess, it would Doohan allow for 41 days a threat against a member of the Chinese Communist Party to stand on their site for 41 days?
Again, I cannot speak for Douyin, and I'm sorry, I didn't hear the second part of what you said.
Well, we had a threat against the chairman of our committee that was on your site for 41 days. My guess is that would not be allowed in China.
That content is, if it's violative, I would look into the specifics, and if it violates our guidelines, it will be taken down on TikTok.
Yeah, it surely
Yes.
appears that it does. But the problem is what I'm trying to get at is you seem to be able to prevent this content in China, but so not even taking it down, just prevent it from being posted, and yet it's on your website. So I have a couple of questions about. You said earlier, as soon as you find this information, you take it down. So how quickly does your algorithm detect keywords or content that involve illicit drug trafficking before these posts are self-reported or used by others?
We have about 40,000 people working on this now, together with the machines that we train. I don't think any company in our industry can be perfect at this. This is a real big challenge for our industry, but our goal is to get any violative content, including illegal drugs, down to a very, very small number.
That's the problem. When we have these hearings, we have CEOs of different companies and of your colleagues and competitors, and we always hear apologies, and we always hear we want to do better at this, but it just doesn't seem to keep improving. And we see hearing stories of our children, and obviously this has been talked about today. So how many posts and accounts have been identified and removed from TikTok due to content posted related to illicit drugs or other controlled substances?
Congressman, we do publish that in a transparency report. I can get my team to get the information to yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Also, we understand that the way that people use TikTok or other platforms similar to yours is that they ensure flagged user content isn't permitted to jump from. So my question, so what we've heard is that the instances the users see a drug advertisement and then give a code to go to another site. So my question is, do you work with other platforms to ensure flagged user content isn't permitted to jump from one platform to others?
I will check with my team. I would love to work with our industry to make sure that we stamp out these problems. Violative content should not be allowed on any platforms, in my opinion.
Well, so what's kind of frustrating to all of us here is that we look at what's happening on your sites and others, and particularly that we know, because we've done a research, that you can't have access to illicit drug information or others on Douyin, which is a sister company, as you say, in China. And so it absolutely, if you can prevent it on one and not the other, you obviously have the ability to stop it from moving forward. and yet you don't. Would you like to expand how one of your sister companies can prevent that and you not? I know you don't represent Douyin, but they don't allow it, but it happens on your platform. What's the difference?
First of all, the majority of the content on TikTok is fun, entertaining, informative, and very positive for our users. Like other companies that operate in this country, we have to deal with some bad actors who come and publish some content on illegal drugs, other.
The bad actors don't seem to be able to access Douyin.
The TikTok US experience should be compared to other US companies because this is a common challenge.
But your parent company has the technology to prevent it because you prevent it in China, but you can't prevent it here. What's the difference? That's why I'm asking.
Oh, Congressman, there is no technology that is perfect in doing this. We have to deal with the reality of the country that we're operating in. And here in the United States, as with other companies, we share this challenge. We are investing a lot to address the challenge, but it's a shared challenge.
You invest a lot to seem to be able to address it in China, but not here.
Again, I think the comparison has to be within the single country. We face the same set of challenges here in the U.S.
What's the difference? I'm sorry, I'm out of time, but what's the difference in China and here?
Let me give you an example, Congressman. In my home country, Singapore, there is literally almost no illegal drug content because Singapore has very strict drug laws.
Thank you. My time's expired now. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from New York, Mr. Tonko, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm concerned that TikTok's algorithm preys on vulnerable people, including those struggling with addiction, eating disorders, and other mental health conditions. The platform is designed to push content to users that will watch more frequently and for longer periods of time. Unfortunately, for many people suffering from certain mental health disorders, videos that reinforce their fears or negative self-image are more engaging. On top of that, TikTok has received sensitive patient health information and records of browsing activity from multiple telehealth companies like BetterHelp, and Cerebral. People's personal struggles should not be fuel for TikTok's profits. People should be able to seek help to address serious medical concerns without being afraid that their information will be shared with social media companies trying to push more products, services, or content at them. So, Mr. Chu, will TikTok continue to get information from third parties on its users' health, including their mental health? Yes or no?
We will continue to work with experts, yes, if that's the question, to identify these issues.
Will you continue to get information from these third parties, including their mental health? Yes or no?
Congressman, I'm sorry, I may not understand your question. If your question is if I'm working with them on these issues, the answer is yes.
It's not the question, it's will you continue to get information from these third parties on its users' health?
Get information. We do not get any user health information from third parties, Congressman.
You've talked a lot about user privacy and safety. Will you commit here today to no longer using data about users' health, particularly their mental health, to push them content or sell ads? Yes or no?
We take our users' mental health very seriously.
Yes or no?
As far as I'm aware, we don't do that, Congressman. It's not what the...
So the answer is no, you'll no longer use data about users' health. TikTok systematically exploits users' anxieties by pushing alarming and distressing content onto their For You page. For example, in May of 2022, the LA Times found that some pregnant users searching for information about their pregnancies on TikTok were then shown information about miscarriages, stillbirths, and delivery room traumas. Your company knows that distressing content can have the perverse effect of feeding user engagement. And for TikTok, engagement means money. In the course of a week, what percentage of content that a user sees is considered potentially harmful or distressing content?
Congressman, we work with a lot of experts on this. Even before we set the 60-minute time limit for under 18s, if you spend too much time on our platform, you can try it. If you spend too much time, we will actually send you videos to tell you to go out and get some air and get off the platform.
What percentage of content that a user sees is considered potentially harmful?
I will need to follow up with my team and get back to you on that, if that's okay.
Ballpark.
I will need to follow up with my team.
So are teenagers in particular shown more distressing content?
The opposite is true. We actually put in more restrictions to make sure that our teenagers get a better experience.
Are expectant or new parents shown more distressing content?
I know of many parents, including one I met recently, who actually use our platform to find communities, to connect with other parents and learn a lot more. I've heard amazing stories of creators who have difficulties, and the
Reclaiming
challenges
my
they face.
time. Are individuals with eating disorders shown more distressing content?
We do not, we remove all content that glorifies eating disorders, and we have worked with experts to look at certain certain content that may not inherently be harmful, like diet trends, and make sure that we disperse them more throughout our algorithm.
What about those with mental health issues? Are they
This is
given
an
more
issue we take-
distressing content?
If a user searches, words that expresses mental health issues, we actually redirect them to a safety page. Like, for example, if you, I don't know if I should say this in public, if you search, "I want to die," we will redirect you to a safety page, for example.
So what about those suffering from addiction? Are they given more distressing content?
I'm sorry, Congressman, I missed that question.
Those suffering from addiction, are they given more distressing content?
I missed the first few words, I apologize.
What about those suffering from addiction? Are they given more distressing content?
Those suffering from
Addiction.
Addiction. Do you mean drug addiction or?
Yes, or any order of addiction.
If people search for content, and you can try on a variety of subjects, we will actually direct you to a safety page to give you more resources. And a lot of recovering addicts have actually found their communities on TikTok, and it's really helped them, find their voices and the community and the courage to really overcome their addiction. I personally have heard stories of that.
Well, I appreciate your answers, but I was looking for yes or no, and we did not get those. And again, I think the more that they watch this distressing content, the more profit TikTok makes, and that's distressing.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Wahlberg, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and we're glad that you're here, Mr. Chu. As Chair Rogers and Representative Burgess mentioned this morning, the Wall Street Journal reported that China will firmly oppose any forced sale or divestiture of TikTok. And this is based not on conjecture, but it's based on comments provided by the official spokesperson at the Ministry of Commerce, who said that any TikTok sale or spinoff would amount to a technology export and would have to adhere to Chinese law and approval. This spokesperson was quoted as saying the Chinese, and I quote, "The Chinese government will make decisions according to the law." The Chinese government. Mr. Chu, do you agree with this official? Yes or no?
Congressman, I cannot speak on behalf of a Chinese government official.
Do you agree with that official?
We will need to look at this because Project Texas is designed to move forward here in the United States, and we are not discussing this, so I don't have specifics.
Your company is valued at upwards of $50 billion and has been on the verge of forced sale or ban for 3 years at least, correct? Do you expect this committee to believe you haven't already discussed this scenario with your team? And you should have an answer to this, yes or no, I agree with the Communist Party, or I don't agree with the Communist Party. So, I guess I would say at that point, you disagree with the Communist Party. Explain your discrepancy.
Congressman, for 2 years, we spent $1.5 billion US to build Project Texas. This is after very extensive discussions with relevant folks.
Project Texas is just something expanded for the future. We're talking about now. We're talking about what you're doing now, what your expectations are now, what your relationship is with the Communist Party, which is our major concern of what the impact that will be with a country. Let me rephrase that. With a Communist Party that doesn't care about America and sees us as standing in their way for superpower. That's our concern, and for you to have direct relationship, direct ownership with ByteDance, and to not have a characterization or an agreement or disagreement that you say explicitly with this party policy, it's hard for us to believe what you're saying. Let me move on. Following up on what Mr. Latta asked about data access by Chinese engineers. In responding to Mr. Latta, you talked about where American user data would be stored in the future. But the question was about access today, storage in the future versus access today. This is total redirection. This blows up any trust we could desire to develop. So to be clear, Mr. Chu, today, do ByteDance employees in Beijing have access to American data?
Congressman, we have been very open about this. We have relied on global interoperability.
You have access to American data.
Congressman, I'm answering your question if you give me just a bit of time. We rely on global interoperability, and we have employees in China. So yes, the Chinese engineers do have access to global
You
data.
have access to global data,
We have heard. the
not
concerns.
storage.
No, storage has always been in Virginia and Singapore. The physical service.
You have no access to storage, to American data today.
That's not what I said. I said,
So you do have access to American data, and you have storage of American data.
the American data has always been stored in Virginia and Singapore in the past. And access of this is on an as-required basis by
As
our
required
engineers
of who?
globally, by engineers for business purposes.
By
This is a
engineers,
private company.
ByteDance,
ByteDance.
the Communist Party?
No, no.
Why? How can you say that?
This is a,
If
this
they
is
have
a private
access.
business. This is a private business, and is like many other businesses, many other American companies, we rely on the global workforce.
So the global workforce that includes ByteDance, which is connected directly to the Chinese Communist Party,
That is
has
a
access.
characterization that we disagree with. Now, in the future,
That's not what we can disagree with. That's a fact
it's not,
with
unfortunately.
the CEO of ByteDance and your
it is
relationship to them.
Congressman, respectfully, in my opening statement, I said this is a private company. It's owned 60% by global investors. 3 out of the 5 board members on ByteDance are Americans. This is a private business.
And you report directly to ByteDance with the CEO who is a member of the Communist Party. Let me move on.
he's not.
I think we got the answer. Sadly, at this point, I believe my time has expired, so I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Ms. Clark for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman Rogers. Thank the ranking member, Pallone, for holding today's hearing. Throughout this hearing, I also want to thank our witness for being here to testify on what are very important issues before us today. Throughout this hearing, my colleagues have outlined the potential threat posed by the security of Americans' data by TikTok being affiliated and some would say owned by a Chinese company. Foreign adversaries having direct access to Americans' data, as well as the ability to influence this content Americans see on a prolific social media platform, represents an unprecedented threat to American security and to our democracy. However, the problems of social media platforms, content moderation, algorithmic discrimination, and safety are neither new nor unique to TikTok. Mr. Chu, I share the concerns raised by my colleague, Congresswoman Matsui, related to algorithms. I believe that without mitigation against bias, platforms will continue to replicate, exacerbate discrimination that is illegal under civil rights law, as well as exclude important dialogue about sensitive topics like race from occurring on the platform. For example, I was disturbed by reports that TikTok content moderation algorithm flagged words like Black or Black Lives Matter as inappropriate content. So my first question, Mr. Chu, is do you agree that platforms like TikTok should be subject to regular audits or transparency requirements to identify whether policies have a disparate impact on communities that are protected classes like race, religion, national origin, or gender?
I think, Congresswoman, I think platforms should be very transparent on what they do there and disclose a lot of information. We can get back on the specifics of what we mean by an audit, but I do agree very strongly that platforms should be very transparent, and it's a commitment that we're giving to this committee and all our users that our platform will be a place of freedom of expression. We embrace all diverse points of view, all ethnic minorities. you can come and say whatever you want, as long as you don't violate the rules of safety that were put in place. And we also commit to be free of all and any government manipulation. So I think I'm in strong agreement with a lot of what you said.
Well, thank you. My bill, the Algorithmic Accountability Act, would require platforms to be transparent about their algorithms, measure disparate impact, and require risk mitigation. It is vital that the diverse culture of the United States is reflected online, but I'm concerned the algorithms and content moderation practices employed by TikTok are ignorant to the fundamental diversity while also failing to remove content that is harmful, like child sexual abuse material, hate speech, or domestic terrorism content. My next question to you is, it's my understanding that users must be in good standing to be eligible for compensation from TikTok's Creator Fund. For example, they can't have violated community guidelines. Is this correct?
There are some details there, but directionally, yes.
If TikTok's algorithm is flagging content incorrectly, resulting in creators violating community guidelines when in fact they have not, those creators would not be eligible to receive compensation under the Creator Fund, correct?
We do have an appeals process.
You have an appeals process, okay.
Yes.
In my view, if TikTok employs algorithms that disproportionately remove content from Black creators, it disproportionately silences and excludes Black creators from compensation opportunities. And this problem happens in parallel to the lack of adequate recognition, attribution, and compensation to Black creatives for their content. The exploitation, cultural misappropriations, the erasure of Black creatives' ownership of their fashion, art, and media is nothing new. We need transparency, accountability, and bold action to mitigate against misinformation, bias, and exclusion of certain communities from the opportunities present on platforms like TikTok. So let me just say this. I'm concerned about transparency. I am concerned about algorithmic accountability. And I'm not clear that your organization holds those values. So I want to ask that you take a look at this because this is all part and parcel of what we're concerned about with respect to social media platforms and the misappropriation, the ways in which those algorithms can discriminate within the context of the social media platform. With that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Congresswoman, is it okay if I just very quickly respond? This is a very important topic.
Unfortunately, we only have 4.5 hours with you, and I'm going to try to get to every member. So we're going to keep going.
It is very important. I would love to follow up.
There will be other opportunities. The lady yields back. Gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Buddy Carter, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Crew, welcome to the most bipartisan committee in Congress. We may not always agree on how to get there, but we care about our national security. We care about our economy, and we sure as heck care about our children. We sure do. And that's why you're here today, because 2/3 of all the youth in our country are on your app. They spend an average of 95 minutes on your app. And you know, research has shown that TikTok is the most addictive platform out there. And the reason for that, as we've been told, is because it has the most advanced algorithm. And the Chinese Communist Party knows this, and I don't speak for everyone, but there are those on this committee, including myself, who believe that the Chinese Communist Party is engaged in psychological warfare through TikTok to deliberately influence U.S. children. You know, you see behind me, if you look behind me, Mr. Crew, you see some of the challenges that we've seen on TikTok. You know about them. You know about the milk crate. You know about the blackout challenge. You know about the NyQuil chicken challenge, the Benadryl challenge, the Dragon's Breath liquid nitrogen trend, or the challenge that promotes car theft. I want to ask you, as I understand it, there's a sister app in China, Douyin. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation. Do they have these same things over there? Do they have these kind of challenges? in China?
Congressman, I'm really glad you asked this question.
And do they, yes or no?
I'm not sure because
Yeah, whoa, come on now. You're not sure?
I really am not sure.
Remember, you took the chair lady, she said you got to tell the truth, okay? Do you know whether they have these kind of challenges like this over in China? Because it's my understanding they don't.
I'm not sure because I spend my energies running TikTok.
And you don't look at any of your other competitors or look at anything similar to yours. So you don't know whether they have. They don't have this over in China.
I did.
We have it here, but they don't have it here. And that's why I'm asking you this. Why is it that TikTok consistently fails to identify and moderate these kinds of harmful videos? Why is it? Why is it that you allow this to go on? We've already heard, God bless you, from parents who are here with us, who have lost children. I submit to you, everybody up here cares about the children of this country. Tell me why.
This is a real industry challenge, and we're working
No, it's
very
not
hard.
industry. This is TikTok.
It's
We're talking about TikTok. We're talking about why is it that you can't control this? And although I believe in giving credit where credit's due, I want to thank you. It's my understanding that the video that threatened life of the chairwoman has been removed. Thank you for doing that. Sorry we had to bring it to your attention here, but it's been removed. Tell me why this goes on.
This is an industry challenge for all of us here operating in this
Okay,
industry.
so much for industry challenge. I want to shift gears real quick. I want to talk about biometric matrix, and I want to talk specifically, can you tell me right now, can you say with 100% certainty that TikTok does not use the phone's camera to determine whether the content that elicits a pupil dilation should be amplified by the algorithm? Can you tell me that?
We do not collect body, face, or voice data to identify our users. We do not.
You don't?
The only face data that you will get, that we collect, is when you use the filters to have, say, sunglasses on your face. We need to know where your eyes are. And
Why do you need to know what the eyes are if you're not seeing if they're dilated?
And that data is stored on your local device and deleted after use if you use it for facial. Again, we do not collect body, face, or voice data to identify our users.
I find that hard to believe. It's our understanding that they're looking at the eyes. How do you determine what age they are then?
We rely on age gating as our key age assurance.
Age
gating, which is when you ask the user what age they are. We have also developed some tools where we look at their public profile to go through the videos that they post to see whether...
Well, that's creepy. Tell me more about that.
It's public. So if you post a video, you choose that video to go public, that's how you get people to see your video. We look at those to see if it matches up the age that you talked about. Now, this is a real challenge for our industry because privacy versus age assurance is a really big problem.
Look, you keep talking about the industry. We're talking about TikTok here. We're talking about children dying. Do you know how many children have died because of this? Do you have any idea? Can you tell me?
Congressman, again, it's heartbreaking.
Can you tell me how many children in America have died because of challenges like this?
The majority of people who use our platform use it for positive experiences.
That's not what I ask you. I ask you, tell me the number of children, of U.S. children who have died because of these challenges.
Congressman, again, the majority of people who come on our platform get a good experience.
I'm not talking about the majority of children. I want to know a number.
Dangerous challenges are not allowed on our platform. If we find them, we will remove them. We take this very seriously.
Obviously, you found one today and you removed it. We had to bring it to your attention, and I know I'm out of time. Thank you for being here. Welcome again to the most bipartisan committee in Congress.
Gentleman yields back. We will now take a brief recess and resume in 10 minutes. The committee stands in recess. Chair recognizes gentleman from California, Mr. Cardenas, for 5 minutes. Cardenas, sorry.
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I appreciate this opportunity for this committee to have this important hearing regarding TikTok and its effect on the American people, especially the American children, and the potential effect, not potential, but the effects that it has had and may have in the future when it comes to our democracy and misinformation and disinformation that permeates on TikTok. It's unfortunate that I think most Americans or most parents think that TikTok is this innocent little thing where kids get on there and they do a little dance or something like that. But TikTok is much, much more, as some of my colleagues, and I thank them for bringing up some of these serious issues, literally life and death issues that TikTok is right in the middle of. And also, what I'd like the witness to acknowledge is that it appears that Ms. Kamek, my colleague, brought up those two posters, and since then, TikTok has taken them down since then, not before then. Are you aware of that, Mr. Chu?
I was briefed during the break that they are taken down.
Okay. How do you feel about the fact that it was up for apparently 40-some days, 41 days, and yet in the middle of this hearing, it was brought directly to your attention, and as a result, it has been taken down so quickly?
It goes to show the enormous challenge that we have to make sure that although the vast majority of our users come for a good experience, we need to make sure that bad actors don't post violative
Yes,
content.
and the way, Mr. Chu, that you can make sure is that you can make sure that you choose to invest more resources, more money into more ability to pull down damaging and deadly information from your platform. Are you investing more and more and more every day into bringing down that kind of content? That's my question. Are you?
Yes, and I'm committed to investing more in this regard to stay on top of the growth.
Right here in the United States, many, many languages are used and spoken. For example, TikTok in the United States is being used in many languages. Specifically, when it comes to Spanish language, are you dedicating more resources today than you did months ago, years ago, on making sure that you are combing through that content to make sure that if content is dangerous or damaging or deadly, that you are bringing it down as quickly as possible?
Yes, we are investing in more Spanish language content moderation, and yes, we will, once we identify violative content, we'll take it down as soon as possible.
Thank you. And your testimony today isn't the only opportunity for you to commit to answering questions to this committee, so I'd like you to forward to this committee. Again, I'm not asking for trade secrets, but I would like to get some semblance of understanding as to how much you are investing with the number of bodies, the number of people, the number of resources in making sure that you are investing more in pulling down content that is either deadly or dangerous on your platform. Can you forward that to the committee?
I will check with my team and get back to you on this, Congressman.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that opportunity. As was mentioned earlier, it might sound a little funny, but you have, in fact, been one of the few people to unite this committee, members, Republicans and Democrats, to be in agreement that we are frustrated with TikTok. We're upset with TikTok. And yes, you keep mentioning that there are industry issues that not only TikTok faces, but others. You remind me a lot of Mike Zuckerberg. When he came here, I said to my staff, he reminds me of Fred Astaire, good dancer with words. and you are doing the same today. A lot of your answers are a bit nebulous. They're not yes or no. So I'd like to ask you a question. Yes or no? Is your revenue going up at TikTok month over month or year over year?
Yes, our revenue is going up
Okay.
year over year.
And with that, some of the answers I'd like you to forward this committee is, are you investing more and more money into making sure that content that is dangerous and or deadly, you're investing more and more resources in that aspect of your expenditures and your commitment to your users and to your organization?
Yes, I commit to that, and we are investing more, and we will continue to do that.
Okay. My last question is this. Are you a Chinese company?
TikTok is a company that's now headquartered in Singapore and Los Angeles.
Okay.
We are not available in mainland China. Our users are in other countries around the world.
Okay. Is there a corporation that has any authority above TikTok?
TikTok is a subsidiary of ByteDance, which is founded by a Chinese founder. Yes.
And ByteDance is a Chinese company?
Well, ByteDance owns many businesses that operate in China.
Is it or is it not a Chinese company?
Congressman, the way we look at it, it was founded by Chinese
I'm not asking you how you look at it. Fact, is it a Chinese company or not? For example, Dell is a company, it's an American company. They have activities all over the world. Is it a Chinese company?
I frequently have these discussions with others on what is a company that is now global.
That's okay. I prefer you answer the question and stop dancing verbally on it. Madam Chair, my time has expired. Thank you very much.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Obernolte.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chu. It's nice to see you again. If I could just bring us back up to 30,000 feet for a second, I just want to talk about what we're afraid of here, what we fear might happen. Social media companies, and TikTok is not unique in this, gather a tremendous amount of user data and then use powerful AI tools to use that data to make eerily accurate predictions of human behavior and then seek to manipulate that behavior. And that's something that it's not just TikTok, it's all our social media companies that are doing this. Ultimately, the solution is to enact comprehensive federal data privacy legislation that will prevent that kind of behavior, or at least allow users to consent to it. And that's, I know, something that the chair is working on, the ranking member. I hope that this committee will act on that this year. The specific concern here, though, as regards TikTok, is that this type of capability falling into the hands of foreign countries is something that has national security implications, and that's why Congress is getting involved on this issue. So I know that you have proposed Project Texas in an effort to alleviate these fears. So I wanted to ask some specific technical questions about Project Texas and the way that you believe that it will solve this problem. So one of the things that you've said in your testimony is that part of Project Texas will have engineers at Oracle going through the source code for TikTok. How large is that code base?
Well, it's not small, but it's not just Oracle, Congressman. We are also inviting other third-party monitors. We're in the process of figuring out who the best
Sure. So we're talking millions, tens of millions of lines of code? How big is the base?
It is significant, but it's something that we believe can be done. And again, I want to say that I have not heard of another company, American or not,
No,
that has
I understand.
allowed for this to happen.
But I mean, you're kind of in a unique position having to answer these concerns of Congress. So are they going through the code for just the app or the app and the server code?
I can get back to you on the technical details, but it's comprehensive, including the software that powers a lot of the software that powers the experience.
And how long will that review take?
I need to get back to you on the timeline, but we are progressing quite well on Project Texas, and whenever we hit a milestone, I commit to be very transparent about it.
Okay. So I'm wondering, because I'm also concerned as a software engineer about the process in which new code is introduced into the code base. Do you use a software configuration management system at TikTok?
The way we plan for new code to be done is that even before the code becomes live, it has to be reviewed. The changes have to be reviewed by
so
the
you're
third-party
talking
monitors.
about a code review. That was good. That was another question I had for you. So the code review, is it done with a team of engineers or just with a single engineer?
Oh, it's going to be a team effort.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's going to be done at Oracle or elsewhere?
It's going to be done in one of our transparency centers so that we still need to make sure that the code itself is secure. And,
Okay.
yeah.
What I'm hearing you say is that even though the code might be written by someone not in the United States, before the code is integrated, it'll be reviewed in a code review by a team of engineers within the United States?
That's the plan.
Okay, and this, back to the question about the software configuration management system, how do you manage the integration of that code change into the rest of the TikTok code base?
The long and short of it is we have built a team of American personnel with security credentials. The person who leads the team used to work for the Secret Service,
No, I
for
understand,
example.
but I mean, there's a software solution for integrating those code changes into the code base. What solution is that?
I would
use
need
a
to check and
commercial one?
get back to you on the
Okay,
details.
well,
Yeah.
specifically, what I'd like to know is to make sure that this isn't something that TikTok has created custom, which many companies do, because that would mean that you'd have to review the source code for that as well
Yeah.
for security. How do you protect against threats like a malicious actor being hired not by TikTok, but by Oracle, for example, or by USDS?
The approach that most companies take for these things is to have several layers of monitoring to make sure that everything that somebody has reviewed, there's a secondary review so that one malicious actor is not able to create the damage that the malicious actor can do. But you rightly pointed out, these kind of problems are industry-wide problems.
Right.
Every company has to deal with them.
Okay, well, let me ask a specific question about that. I mean, in thinking about if I were a malicious actor, a software engineer on one of your projects, how I would go about writing a malicious code, I wouldn't put it right there and say, hey, I'm malicious. I would put unrelated lines of code in different sections of the code that work together to do something malicious. How do you think that could get caught?
Again, we have to rely on third-party experts to help us with that. I think there are enough experts who can catch a lot of these things. The work on security globally, on all data security, is never perfect.
Yeah, I understand.
But we can have a lot of oversight to keep it safer than any other experience.
I appreciate the effort. My concern, Mr. Chu, is I don't believe that it is technically possible to accomplish what TikTok says it will accomplish through Project Texas. I just think that there are too many back doors through that process to allow that to be possible, and I think a malicious actor would succeed in inserting malicious code in there if they wanted to. But I see we're out of time. I hope we get an opportunity to talk some more about this. I yield back, Madam Chair.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentlelady from Michigan, Mrs. Dingle, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Rogers and Ranking Member Pallone for holding this hearing, and to Mr. Chu for testifying here today. Your good news, you're halfway through with me. As screen time increases, so do inherent risks. And with the proliferation and popularity of new social media platforms, so does the potential reach of dangerous, provocative, and often harmful content. And my fear, the abuse of collected data. As a representative from the state of Michigan, I can speak from experience on how social media has been used to target members of the Michigan delegation, including a plot to kidnap our governor, and how it can be weaponized to perpetuate harms towards individuals and communities. And you saw firsthand how it targeted the chair of this committee. Today, many of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle have raised legitimate concerns about protecting children online, misinformation, and securing our data. Concerns that I share, and has been said by many of my colleagues, are bipartisanly shared. I think in many ways, these myriad of issues highlight the need for comprehensive data privacy legislation that would ensure the safety and integrity of every American's data on every social media platform and mitigate potential harms. One important area of concern I have regarding data collection is geolocation data and how it can be abused. I've seen it abused. I have seen women die because it has been abused. This subject has dangerous implications for survivors of domestic violence, people seeking medical care, and protecting children from potential predators. Mr. Chu, in your testimony, you wrote that current versions of the app do not collect precise or approximate GPS information from U.S. users. Yes or no answers, please. Mr. Chu, have any prior versions of TikTok's app collected precise GPS information from U.S. users? Yes or no?
Yes, from back in 2020, about 3 years ago.
Are there currently TikTok users who still hold old versions of the app that collect precise GPS information from U.S. users? Yes or no?
That could be, but that's a small percentage today.
Still dangerous. Has TikTok at any time fed precise GPS information collected from U.S. users into algorithms to serve user ads? Yes or no?
I will need to check on the details because we do not currently collect that. So I need to check on the details.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a yes there. But has TikTok at any time fed precise GPS information collected from U.S. users into algorithms? I know I'm having talk today to make inferences about users. Yes or no?
I'm not sure of the specifics.
I'd like answers, yes or no, after this. Has TikTok at any time sold precise GPS information collected from U.S. users? Yes or no?
We do not sell data to data brokers, if that's the question.
And you've never done that?
I do not believe so.
Has TikTok at any time sold or shared with third parties or algorithmic inferences that were made using, in part or in whole, precise GPS information collected from U.S. users? Yes or no?
Congressman, I need to check on these specifics. What I can tell you is right now we do not collect precise GPS location data in the United States.
All right. Does TikTok still use inferences that were made using, in part or in whole, precise GPS information collected from U.S. users?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
Does TikTok still use inferences that you've gained that were made using, in part or whole, precise GPS information collected from U.S. users in your algorithms?
That will be a very technical question. I will have to check and get back to you.
Has TikTok at any time provided the Chinese government with either precise GSP information collected from U.S. users or inferences made from that data?
That I can give you a straight and no.
Mr. Chu, even if Congress were to ban TikTok, I'm concerned that China or others would still have access to U.S. consumer data by purchasing it through data brokers. Will you commit not to sell any of TikTok's data to data brokers now or in the future?
We do not do that. We do not sell data to data brokers now.
Will you commit to not do it in the future?
There are certain members of our industry who do this. I think this has to be broad legislation to help us, the whole industry, address this problem.
I think I'm out of time. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair yields 5 minutes to the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Palmer.
Thank you. When the Chinese Communist government bought a share of ByteDance, it's been described as the Chinese Communist government's way of quieter form of control, and that companies have little choice in selling a stake to the government if they want to stay in business. And what I'd like to know is when the Chinese Communist government moved to buy shares of ByteDance, were you informed beforehand, yes or no?
No.
Okay.
Congressman ByteDance...
Were you or anyone with TikTok asked for your opinion about the sale of shares of ByteDance to the Chinese Communist government? Yes or no?
This hasn't happened.
Did you or anyone employed by or affiliated with TikTok state any objections or concerns about the possibility of the Chinese Communist government, once they had shares in ByteDance, exercising control over content, using your platform for conducting misinformation campaigns, or restrictions ensuring nothing is posted that reflects badly on the Chinese Communist government, or for surveillance and data collection for use against anyone? Did any of you or anyone affiliated with TikTok raise any concerns about that?
Congressman, we do not collect, we do not promote.
I didn't ask you that.
We do not
yes or no.
promote.
Did you raise any concerns about it? Because that's why we're here.
But we do not promote or remove any content at the behalf of the Chinese government.
Did you communicate in any form or fashion with the directors of ByteDance that there might be concerns about government control over content. Yes or no? You either did or you didn't?
Congressman,
You
I
didn't.
just want to make this clear. We
Let me
do
ask
not
you
remove
this.
or promote content at the request of the Chinese
TikTok
government.
insiders have already said that the company is tightly controlled by ByteDance. It even gets down to the hours they work. So obviously, you didn't say anything. There's a serious concern by Chinese companies, privately held companies, about doing anything against what the Chinese Communist government wants. I want to ask you this. Does TikTok screen against manipulative content from child predators, yes or no?
Do we screen?
Do you
against-
screen against them?
Yeah, we do. This
How about drug cartels?
drug cartels, child predatory content. This is all
You had a
violative.
drug
of our-
cartel that was engaged in a police chase with Spanish authorities, and they posted it on TikTok and got over 1 million views. Why wasn't that taken down? And are you doing it with human traffickers or terrorists? I mean, do you withhold content from nations that might be committing crimes against humanity? Yes or no?
Congressman, our platform is
Yes
a place
or
of
no?
freedom of
Yes or
expression,
no?
and users
I know
come here.
you
and
talk about that, but yes or no, do you screen against content from nations that commit crimes against humanity?
Congressman, our users come and
Yes or
express-
no?
Our
Yes or no?
users come and present
No, you-
any points of views
you
that
don't.
they want, and it's a commitment to keep this
Let
free
me ask
from
you this.
interference
Michael
from any
Beckerman,
government.
who is your vice president and head of public policy for the Americas, right? Is he part of the team that helped you prepare for this meeting, yes or no?
Can I clarify who you mean?
Michael Beckerman.
Yes, he is.
Okay, where is he at this moment?
I'm sorry?
Where's Mr. Beckerman at this moment?
He's probably here.
No, you know he's here. He's sitting right behind you. I want to know why, when Mr. Beckerman was on with Jake Tapper on CNN and asked repeatedly to condemn Chinese Communist government's treatment of the Uyghurs, when that treatment has been classified by the United States as a genocide, when a UN report classifies it as a crime against humanity, why, after multiple questions, Mr. Beckerman refused to address that? Are you afraid of the Chinese Communist government?
No, because
you
you can find that
concerned
content
that-
on our platform. Any content that our users want
Well, why
to
couldn't
express
your
their
vice
views on this
president of
issue is
public
freely
policy,
available on
the
our
guy
platform.
who is head of public policy for the Americas, on an American television news channel, why couldn't he condemn that?
I think it's very important to look at our platform, and if you use and open our app
I'm not
and
talking about
search
your
for any
platform. I'm asking
content.
about your personnel now, because personnel is policy. Everybody in this room understands that, except maybe you. Personnel is let me just conclude with this. And I hate to bring this up because this is part of the stuff that I've studied, but deception is fundamental to the Chinese Communist Party's political, intelligence, and military strategy. And you have repeatedly used the word transparency throughout this hearing. And every time you've said it, what I've heard is deception. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes gentleman from Texas, Mr. Vesey, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I got to tell you, Mr. Chu, as a father of a 16-year-old that likes social media, a lot of your evasiveness today in answering many of these questions really disturbs me, because I can tell you that the teenagers of today, they really don't want to be on Facebook. They want your platform, and you were asked to come before this committee to testify about many things, and a lot of us are worried about our kids' personal data. As the co-chair of the Congressional Voting Rights Caucus, I also worry that TikTok is the world's most powerful and extensive propaganda machine, allowing the Chinese Communist Party to use TikTok's platform to influence public opinion and undermine the integrity of our democratic elections. And I have a report called "TikTok and Facebook Failed to Detect Election Disinformation in the U.S. While YouTube Succeeds." And this report was published by the nonprofit Global Witness and the Cybersecurity for Democracy team at NYU. And the purpose of the study was to test platforms like TikTok and whether or not they can detect and take down false political ads targeted at U.S. voters, young voters, ahead of last year's midterm elections. And according to this report, 90% of election disinformation ads tested were approved by your platform. Again, that is 90% of ads containing false and misleading election misinformation went undetected on TikTok. And just to add some color to the type of misleading ads that were approved by TikTok, this included ads that were live on TikTok that said the wrong election day and actually encouraged people to vote twice. You do know that voting twice is a felony. Mr. Chu, you do know that it's legal to vote twice.
Congressman, any misinformation that comes around a political action is something we take very seriously.
Let me, I'm particularly troubled about this type of information because it can run rampant on TikTok. And given that TikTok, again, y'all are appealing to a very young and diverse user base, that is exactly the people that we've seen targeted time and time again with voter suppression campaigns run by malicious actors. Mr. Chu, do you agree with me that it is completely unacceptable that 90% of these ads were undetected on your platform? And can you detail for us right now TikTok's policy regarding election misinformation and paid political ads and how the company monitors such information and how you plan to get that number down to zero?
Whilst TikTok is a place for our users to come and express their points of views freely, we do take misinformation, dangerous misinformation, particularly around an election, very seriously. And we will work with third-party experts to identify misinformation.
You call allowing 90% of false content, political content on your platform to be taken, you define that as being taken seriously?
I need to look into the specifics. I'm not sure where the number came from, but I can tell you, Congressman, that we are the only platform that I know of that doesn't actually take political ads. We don't accept money. I don't think other platforms can say that.
Mr. Chu, can you detail how you responded to that report? Did you respond to that report that I just mentioned?
I need to look at the specifics of the report, Congressman, and I can get back to you on that.
All right. Mr. Chu, I want to shift to Project Texas. I know that we've discussed this initiative throughout today's hearing, but I want to dive deeper into your notion that promises about Project Texas should give us any confidence in TikTok's ability to localize U.S. data and discontinue access to that data to ByteDance employees in China. Why? Because we've already had a TikTok executive appear before Congress and give sworn testimony about the comfort that we should take in TikTok's U.S.-based resources. Well, TikTok data security practices were being scrutinized by the U.S. government, and unfortunately, we've since found out from journalists and recorded conversations that those assurances were worthless. In your testimony, you also mentioned that Oracle has already begun inspecting TikTok's source code and has access to the platform's recommendation algorithm. Why should this give the American public any great assurances, particularly given that Oracle now owns a stake in TikTok and stands to gain monetarily the more revenue that TikTok and its algorithm generates?
Congressman, not only is Project Texas unprecedented in our industry in protecting U.S. user data and interests, we are inviting third parties to come in and monitor this, and we will, be transparent in that process. And this is more beyond all companies that I know of in my industry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm out of time.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Florida for 5 minutes, Mr. Dunn.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Mr. Chu, I'm aware that on arriving in D.C. this week, you appeared on TikTok and posted you had 150 million U.S. users, 5 million U.S. businesses. That represents a lot of data. You also referenced your appearance before this committee as a chance to share all that TikTok is doing to protect Americans using the app. Mr. Chu, has ByteDance spied on Americans at the direction of the Chinese Communist Party?
No.
Madam Chair, I'd like to enter into the record this October 20th, 22 Forbes article entitled TikTok Parent ByteDance Plan to Use TikTok to Monitor the Physical Location of Specific U.S. Citizens.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. The project assigned this to a Beijing-led team, and they were going to follow individual American citizens. I ask you again, Mr. Chu, has ByteDance spied on American citizens?
I don't think the spying is the right way to describe it.
All right.
This is ultimately,
We can differ on
this
that.
is,
I'll
this is
reclaim my
ultimately
time.
an internal
Any
investigation.
TikTok or ByteDance data that is viewed, stored, or passes through China is subject to the laws of China, one-party authoritarian state hostile to all American standards of privacy. China's court system reports to and falls under the Chinese Communist Party. And like fentanyl analogs, which we all know are also manufactured in China, although they are illegal there, I fear TikTok will grow into a much bigger problem, a cancer, if you will. And I'm deeply worried that it may be too late to stop the spread of this cancer. Like fentanyl, another China export, which causes addiction and death, dangerous algorithms and Chinese Communist Party are not good for Americans, not good for our families, and definitely not good for the United States. Mr. Chu, prior to serving as the CFO of ByteDance, you served as a CFO and Director of Global Operations for ShowMe from 2015 to 21. Is that correct?
Are you asking me in 2015?
Very good.
Would you mind repeating that, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to enter another article into evidence. This is from the National Cybersecurity Center in Lithuania.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. This report outlines numerous data security risks, including how the privacy of European users was violated in clear cases of unauthorized collection of user data by ShowMe. This sounds exactly what many of my colleagues have been talking about today. Worse yet, the ShowMe phones sold to Europeans had a list of 449 words and phrases which would be automatically censored on the device. Censored phrases included the Voice of America and Democratic Movement, among others. This analysis was conducted on devices which were manufactured and sold to Europeans while you were the head of operations for ShowMe. It does not follow that you expect us to believe that you would not censor on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party, since you've already done so.
I want to be unequivocal on this. We do not remove
I reclaim
or
my
promote
time.
content on
While
behalf of the Chinese
TikTok, in
government.
your words, strives to deliver on their mission to inspire creativity and bring joy to American users, I assure you that is not the mission or goal of the Chinese Communist Party, which runs the People's Republic of China, that TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, is domiciled in. Mr.
Congressman,
Chu,
you can
these are
check with our
straightforward
users to
things.
see the
world
experience that they're
deserves an
getting.
Answer. You have not given straightforward answers. We don't find you credible on these things. With that, Madam Chair, I'd like to yield the balance.
Congressman, you have given me no
Mr.
time to answer
Obernolte
your
of
questions.
California.
I reject the characterizations.
I yielded
Who
to
are you
Mr.
yielding
Obernolte.
to?